Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in. Week 3 of the NFL season is over. We had a lot of things happen throughout the course of week 3. We're going to talk about those, and along with giving our power rankings, tier rankings as to each NFL team heading into week 4. You guys already know what time it is. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright guys, these are my rankings from last week. Let's see what changes. Let's see what stays the absolute same. Let's get into it. First, we're going to have the Arizona Cardinals. They are staying the same at a D. Despite the win, which is actually a very surprising win, they're still one of the bottom teams in my opinion in the NFL. I think they played well against Dallas. Do not get me wrong. They looked solid. Josh Dobbs is looking like a good find for them as far as how he's been playing in this season, but I still think they're one of the bottom teams in the NFL. Next, we're going to go to the Atlanta Falcons. I've had them at an A tier. I'm going to drop them at a B tier. I thought their offense was going to look more of a showing against the Lions defense that necessarily wasn't that great, but they just did not produce much offensively, and defensively they had some woes. I really do like what this Falcons team is doing and what direction they're heading in. I just thought offensively they can establish some type of a rhythm. It just didn't happen. Next, we're going to go to the Baltimore Ravens. I had them in an A tier. We have the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Colts last week, and despite the loss, I kind of want to drop it, but then I kind of don't because I know what this team is. I'm going to leave them at an A tier. I still believe this is a very good football team. They were missing Odell Beckham last week. They missed a lot of guys. Marlon Humphrey, just to know the names that they were missing. And that game was pretty much still close against the Colts. I still believe this is a solid Ravens team, so I'm going to leave them at an A tier for the moment right now. Next, we're going to go to Buffalo Bills. They're going to stay at an S. I think they found themselves. They found themselves. Josh Allen statistically didn't have the greatest of games, but they ran the football, something that I think they needed to do coming into this year to have the offense a little bit more dynamic and a little bit less predictable. They ran the football very well against the Commanders' defensive line that is stout. So I'm going to put them in the S tier, and that defense dominated. Sacks all over the place, turnovers, interceptions. Buffalo Bills looked complete against the Washington Commanders. Next, we're going to have the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to keep them at a D. They didn't have Bryce Young. Andy Dalton was the starter. So you can't really judge too much, even though they still put out a solid effort. It's not a good football team right now, to be honest. And next is, I don't even want to talk about the Bears anymore. I just don't. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just leaving my reaction in the cards. You guys can see how I really feel about the Bears. But yes, let's move on. Next to the Cincinnati Bengals, I had them at a B tier. I'm going to move them up to an A tier. Much needed win against the Rams on Monday night. I do like that Joe Burrow is playing through this calf injury. I thought they would have ran the football a little bit more versus throwing him 49 times. Their defense played a lot better than what I expected to. They lost some pieces. They're still playing some solid defense. Trey Hendrickson, he's paying dividends for that defense. Offensively, Jamar Chase broke out and had a very good game against the Rams. Even though I would like to see more from their running game, I'm going to put the Bengals at an A. Next is the Cleveland Browns. I don't think they're on a... I kind of want to put them in an A, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing from this Cleveland Browns team. They could possibly be in an A next week if things change. I like what I'm seeing from Deshaun Watson. I like what I'm seeing from their running game, but despite the loss of Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett is very dominant. That defense has been showing up all season. So I'm going to put the Bengals at a B. The Browns, at a B for now, but I'm very tempted to put them in an A, but B for the moment. Next is the Dallas Cowboys. Should I do it? I'm going to drop them back just because they lost to the Cardinals. The thing that we expected them to be dominant as, which is their defense, they just was not. They didn't get much pressure on Josh Dobbs. Offensively, they did not play well much at all. And it looked like the Cardinals had their game from the start. I thought this Dallas Cowboys team would be a Super Bowl contender. They still are. You always going to have some type of a slip up or not great game. But for it to come against the Cardinals, no disrespect to the Cardinals, but the Cowboys are a way better football team and they did not show it. So I'm dropping them to an A. Next, we're going to have the Denver Broncos. I mean, you let up 70 points. I also did a video about that. You let up 70 points. Jesus Christ. And the fact that the Bears got to play them next week, two terrible football teams, I also think that game should be on Comedy Central because it's going to be a laugh fest. Two terrible football teams. I thought Sean Payton was going to have this team better, but I'm not going to discuss that anymore. The Lions. The Lions are going to move and actually keep to an A tier. I still think this is a very good football team, despite losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the year. That defense still played well, and against the Falcons' offense, who I thought was going to be better. And offensively, Jared Goff is playing some really good football for them. Some really, really good football for them. And I like what Dan Campbell was doing with this football team. So I'm going to leave the Detroit Lions in the A. Next is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I hate to do this. I hate to do that, but I will be 100% honest. They're moving up to an A tier. Jordan Love is calm under pressure. That defense played very good in that second half, and they led that comeback against the Saints. I hate to do it as a Bears fan, but that Packers team can be dangerous if Jordan Love continues to play like this. And mind you, this is a team without Christian Watson, without Aaron Jones, without Bakhtiari. Elton Jenkins is a bit banged up. Still a good football team. I hate to say it, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Next, the Houston Texans. I'm going to move the Texans up. I'm a little bit biased. I love what I'm seeing from C.J. Stroud from The Ohio State University. And I like the way they played against the Jaguars. That defense played well. Offensively, C.J. Stroud is really starting to be very impressive, which I knew that was going to happen coming out of Ohio State. I've always thought he had more of the passing talent than Bryce Young. That's just me. But they are a very solid-looking team. Now, they're not necessarily top-end talent heavy, but they play hard. And you can win football games when you're playing hard in this league. Some of the Bears don't do. But let's move on. I've got the Texans at a C. Next is the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to keep the Colts at a C. Now, of course, they didn't have Anthony Richardson. Gardner Minshew, came in and played very well against the Baltimore Ravens. It's just I don't see this team as being necessarily there yet. But what I saw, it was very solid. But I just don't have enough, in my opinion, with the Colts to move them up. And that's just me. Next is Jacksonville Jaguars. I had them at an A tier. I'm going to drop them to a B. Mainly because they stunk up the joint, mainly in the first half against the Texans. Offensively, it just didn't have anything going. I like Trevor Lawrence, but he did not play well. That defense did not play well. And they pretty much basically laid an egg against the Houston Texans. So I'm going to put the Jaguars, move them down to a B. Next is the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, can you be any more dominant? I mean, come on now. I mean, it was against the Bears. The Bears not beating them was not much of an accomplishment these days, but still. Patrick Mahomes, look like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that defense is turning the football over. They just look complete. And that's despite not having the greatest wide receiving core. They were just wide freaking open. I mean, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's the Bears. So next is the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to move them up to a B. Very, very, very much needed win against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, they do lose Mike Williams for the season, and that was the reason why they drafted Winston Johnson, because of an ability of them to really stay healthy, him and Keenan Allen. Now, Keenan Allen looked absolutely impressive against the Vikings, but I still need more from that defense and Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley was brought in to help that defense, and that defense is just not there. You got the names, you got the talent. J.C. Jackson, I don't know what's going on with him with all off the field and some of the stuff he's dealing with, but that defense just leaves so much more to be desired. Even though they are a little bit older, especially on the front end. But, man, the defense needs to be better. I like what I saw offensively. Defense needs to be better. Next is the LA Rams. I'm going to drop them at a C because of the fact of that offense is just not consistent enough. Now, they did have some moments against the Bengals. I don't know with that offense. It's just inconsistent for me, so I'm going to drop them to a C. Defensively, they had some moments where they held up. It's just offensively, the Rams are just inconsistent. Next is the Raiders. I'm going to keep them at a C. Outside of Devontae Adams, you didn't have much out of your wide receiver position, even though Jimmy G is out now with a concussion, and that offensive line, they just cannot run the football right now. And defensively, I've always said this, the Raiders secondary is just a big suspect. That is a big suspect secondary. I love what Max Crosby is doing up front, but that secondary just leaves so much more to be desired. So I'm going to leave the Raiders at a C. Next, the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to keep them at an S tier. The way they just dominated, ran all over the Denver Broncos team, who was not a bad defense, well, until that game, but the way Mike McDaniel has this team flowing and clicking, they are dangerous. And Tua is playing at an MVP level right now. Tyreek Hill, probably at MVP discussions. And they didn't even have Jalen Waddle when they looked like that. 70 points? That's Dolphins team. And the defense is not nothing to sleep on either. Whew. S tier. Next is the Minnesota Vikings. I hate to do it, but I'm dropping them to a D. Now, they probably might be the best team so far in the D category, but they just cannot win the close games that they won last year. And defensively, for that team, it's still much more to be desired from the Vikings on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going to drop them to a D. And as well, I am probably going to move the Patriots to a C. I had them in a D, but, I mean, they looked somewhat impressive against the Jets defense that is a very good defense. And the Patriots defense is always going to be solid. And Mac Jones played a lot better against the game against the Jets. So I'm going to put the Patriots at a C. And for the New Orleans Saints, I had them at a B. I'm going to drop them to a C. Derek Carr being injured doesn't help. The way they let up that comeback against the Packers doesn't help. They didn't run the football very well. You get Alvin Kamara back. You lost Jamal Williams, so that's going to hurt. Kamara's coming back this week. We're interested to see where Derek Carr is going to go. Jameis Winston's probably going to be the starter. That defense, I love that defense, but I just need them to be more stout on a consistent basis. And offensively, without Derek Carr, you see that team needs him. Next is the Giants. I'm debating whether I want to put them in a C or D. I'm going to just put the Giants at a D. I keep saying Daniel Jones is not it, and against the 49ers, showed it more again. That team paid the wrong player. They paid the wrong player. Offensive line struggles. Defensively, they struggle. Running game without Saquon, it's not the same. And just Daniel Jones, I keep saying it, it's not it. It's not the guy. Jets, I'm going to move them to a C. I had them in a B, but I'm dropping them because that quarterback play is just terrible. Zach Wilson looks horrible. They should have kept Mike White for all we're concerned. Because Zach Wilson looks terrible. And it looks like he's just getting worse and worse and worse. That's why I'll probably make a separate video as to I'll leave a video right here. I predicted that Zach Wilson was going to fail coming into his career, so it's not surprising. Next is the Philadelphia Eagles, S-tier football team, one of the better teams in the NFL. Jalen Hurts He had some inaccuracy problems against the Buccaneers, but he got it together in the second half, and they played some really good football. I love what their running game is doing. DeAndre Swift is looking like a very good pickup for them, and defensively, they are creating havoc, creating turnovers, and they just have a lot of bodies that are productive on the defensive side of the ball. Still a very dangerous team. Eagles, S tier. Next is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This might sound a little bit crazy, but I'm going to move them up to an A tier. That defense, I love what they're doing despite not having Cam Hayward. Kenny Pickett looks like he's starting to play better week by week and getting more connection with George Pickens. I like what Freiermuth is doing. I think the only deficiency that the Pittsburgh Steelers have is they cannot get that running game going with Najee Harris. I know that because I have Najee Harris on my fantasy team too, but their running game is just not consistent. He has moments, it's just they have not been able to consistently run the football, and I think that should be an identity of theirs, is running the football and Kenny Pickett doing some things in the pocket, and they just haven't been able to run the football. It's the only reason. I think that's the only trepidation I have about the Steelers team. Next is the Seattle Seahawks. Very good win. I'm going to put them at a B tier. I'm still waiting to see the offensive explosion, I want to say. I still like what the Seattle Seahawks team is doing. I mean, you got 37 points against Carolina, but like I said, it's Carolina. But I'm just waiting to see a little bit more from the Seahawks for me to move them up. That's just me. Next is San Fran. I think, along with them and the Dolphins, the two most complete teams that we have in the NFL. Brock Purdy is looking like they made the right move of going to him. Offensively, they have so many weapons all around the place. McCaffrey, Debo. Defensively, they're just making tons of stops and turnovers. This is a very complete Niners football team. Could we see them representing them in the Super Bowl? Time to be tell, but they are very much a Super Bowl contender right now. Next is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I knew that Baker Mayfield was going to come to earth. Baker Mayfield was going to come to earth. So now I'm going to drop them to a B after that performance against the Eagles. I do like what they have been able to do defensively as far as in pass coverage. Just they did not play well against the run against the Eagles. And Baker Mayfield, I know he's going to come down to earth at some point. So I'm going to put them at a B. Tennessee Titans, I have them at a D. I just don't think this is a very good football team. I'm just interested to see when Tannehill is going to get pulled, because it's going to happen probably before week 6. Mark my words, I think Tannehill is going to get pulled before week 6. It's just not a good football team. I said that coming into the year, and I still believe it. The Commanders, I'm going to drop. You know what? I am going to leave the Commanders at a B. I still think this is a very average football team. Now, of course, they didn't look good against the Bills, but the Bills are the Bills. I still believe that this is a very solid football team. Sam Howell, bad game. Offensive line, bad game. Defense, not great in the back end. And not great up front either, letting up 150 rushing yards against the Buffalo Bills team was not known for running the football. But I'm going to still leave them at a B tier for the moment. But, hey, these are my rankings. This is how I feel each team is going into week 4. I'm going to just leave it like that. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great next day, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.